Sveiki visi susirinkę į Blue Bridge seminarą, tikiuosi, girdžiuosi gerai. Už keletą minučių pradėsime, tai dar palaukime kolegų vėluojančių po pietų, kas dar nespėjo papietauti. Kaip jau susipažinote, Blue Bridge šį mėnesį turi saugumo mėnesį ir prezentuojam, kas toliau laukia kibernetinio saugumo srityje. Tai aš esu Mindaugas Maralas, IT paslaugų valdymo skyriaus vadovas Blue Bridge ir šiandien moderuosiu šį renginį ir padėsiu mūsų partneriui Cloudflare jį pravesti. Elena jau parašė, kad dešiniai pusėje kampe renginio metu galite užduoti klausimus, tai tos klausimus perskaitysiu ir informuosiu Kamilą, kad atsakytų juos. Tai kai pamatysite ir nelaukite galo pabaigos, jeigu turite klausimą iš karto, tai prašom jį iš karto ir klausti ir pamėginsiu pertraukinėti ir vis tiek, kai vyksta interaktyvi diskusija, visiems būna daug įdomiau. Pats saugumas tai tikrai kertinis dalykas šiuo metu, tiek Lietuvoje, tiek pasaulyje. Ir kažkas gal jau sudalyvavo, tai birželio 1 turėjome pirmąjį seminarą Turning Data into Knowledge. Šiandien pristatys mūsų Cloudflare'as Next Generation Security for Web Application. Birželio 8 turėsime Sentinel pristatymą ir po to lauks dar Fortineto ir Tailwind Group pristatymai birželio 10 ir 15 dienos. Tada, kaip sakoma, saugumo per daug tikrai nebūna, nors vartotojai kartais ir skundžiasi, bet kuo daugiau jo, to organizacijom nuo to tik geriau. Daugiau iš techninių dalykų galvoju, tiesiog turėsime intro, turėsime pristatymo metu Kamila pamėgins atsakyti visus jūsų klausimus apie Cloudflare. Pas Blue Bridge su Cloudflare jau darbuojasi beveik porą metų ir su šia kompanija yra vienas sparčiausiai augančių saugumo kompanijų Amerikoje. Labiausiai darbuojamės irgi Web Application srityje, nors ji turi tikrai daugybę produktų. Ši kompanija ir matome, kad tiek Lietuvos didžiausios shopai, tiek didžiausios organizacijos, tiek netgi ir mūsų rinkimų puslapis naudojasi šio tiekėjo paslaugomis, kad apsisaugoti savo web aplikaciją nuo įsilaužimų, apie ką šiandien ir daugiau sužinosite. Pačią gale seminarą turėsime mažą kvizą, apklausim, kaip sekėsi klausytis ir apdovanosime geriausiai klausysius žmonės. Tad daugiau kažko neužtemsiu, jeigu kyla kažkokių klausimų arba techninių, rašykite drąsiai į chatą, o daugiau ką užleisiu Kamilai vietą ir jos pristatymą. So, hello Kamila, stage is yours and you can move on. You need to turn on your microphone. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, just a second. So,
yes.
Fantastic, yeah? Great.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mindaugas, for presentation. Hello, everyone. Maybe I don't say it right, but my mom, she taught me Laba diena because my auntie, Gražina, she's from Lithuania, so a little bit some Lithuanian I could understand. Very nice to see you all here. Thank you so much for your time. Today, we'll try to make sure that the session is interactive, and if you have any questions, just please shoot it on the chat, or if you can ask it in the audio, please do, and we'll look at it together. What we're going to cover today. So let me pull the presentation where we're going to go what is going to be today. I want to get you the idea what's happening today on the security, and not only security level, what the digital transformation is happening towards which direction, why Cloudflare becoming more and more, for example, popular and more common brand to use, not just for security, but also other optimization and reliability sections. So we're going to look at it. We also look at the Cloudflare overview, just to get the idea where it's coming, just a few minutes. We dive a little bit into services to get the idea where it sits. I will talk about DDoS on level 7 application level, and we'll also look at the web application firewall, what exactly we achieved today and where it's actually going towards. And after, want to make sure that we have a demo where you can look at the interface, how easy to set up, what exactly possible to do with it. So you got the idea and real estate, what it actually works at. So whenever you'd like to try it, you're already kind of familiar with it. And of course, we reserve the time for Q&A and for the quiz. So listen carefully, because some of the questions in this quiz will be through the presentation. So, and certainly it will help you to answer questions easier. So let's get started then. SASE. This is the new terminology that Gartner start using it. It's very recently, not many people know it, but I think I'll just spend a couple of minutes just to get the idea, because this is one of the key differentiator when we're talking about companies that keep developing and trying to make sure that they never stay on the same position. They always obtaining the new knowledges and using the new technologies to make the internet better and our life easier and more secured. So the SASE terminology, or Secure Access Service Edge, is a new terminology that's been applied for the user-centric security. And this is when we're talking about network as a service features and network security as a service. By 2024, Gartner predicts that up to probably 40% of enterprise customers will adapt that type of services. And Cloudflare is one of the brilliant examples of covering majority of that different areas that comes into that service. Look at the slide. If we're talking about past time, yeah, most of the providers, they were data center, yeah. We always had to buy different equipments for different features. One of them for caching, one of them for load balancing, another one replication firewall, and other services. So it was boxes on top of the boxes. But we start spreading the dilution of the internet through the network, becomes more spread. And this is where you become having customers not just from one local area, Lithuania. It can come from outside, and you still have to help them and serve them, as well as working from home, remotely, or on the travel, or maybe on portable devices like mobile. So it's no longer sitting right in the office and protect just this castle. You have to think about mobility, how you can be more agile. And this is where we're talking about user-centric approach. That's what the SASE coming from, that it doesn't matter where you are, in the office, on the roads, hotel, on your mobile phone, desktop, laptop. So this is all will be around you, building it based on network as a service or network security as a service. So these are the areas, all that black names like WAF, VPN, latency, etc. They all are areas that covered by that SASE terminology, Secure Access Service Edge. And you can see on the next slide, this where Cloudflare is basically covering almost majority of them. It's just a matter of time, a question of time, when we're going to cover the rest of them. So, and this is probably one of the biggest differentiator with other competitors, because today it's not a secret. A lot of companies offering different security products, but what's the best for me? How can I find it? With Cloudflare, we believe there shouldn't be any trade-offs between security and your optimization. So you want to make sure that if you use any security services, you want to make sure you also benefit from speed. There is no latency, everything loads as fast as possible, so your latency is not affected. So this is where in Cloudflare it comes hand in hand. And on top of it, another big key differentiator that I can say about Cloudflare is that whenever we have a new technology, either we acquire a new company or we build it in-house, we always integrate it into our core product platform, because the single pane of glass or interface by using it within one technology will help you easily to adapt it and work it. If we take, for example, Akamai and others, the problem with them that they don't have it like as a one pane of glass. It's always what this service support this one doing, for example, DDoS mitigation, another one doing another service. But in Cloudflare, we do it as a one pack. So if we take it to service, it's for sure going to be integrated with our main core products. Within that, let's have a look what is actually Cloudflare. a little bit couple of statistics and numbers, so you got idea where it's coming from if you're not familiar yet. So Cloudflare being founded in 2010, and with the headquarter in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. Today we have over 2,000 people. It went successfully on public back in 2019. We have today over 25 million internet properties or digital properties among the applications, WebSockets, websites that trust today in Cloudflare and using Cloudflare services. So our biggest value and our biggest power is our network. As you can see, this is our map with all the points around the world. So we build the network based on any cast topology, where every single machine or server in the network, they all share the same IP address. That's the Anycast topology that we're using. In this case, we are able to deliver the requests very fast within the network to the closest one to the eyeball or end user, and as well improve tolerance and reliability of it. So in case if one of the service is out, we automatically can reroute the request to another closest server that can actually take care of this request. Today we have over 200 data centers across the world. They're in 200 different cities, over 100 countries. Majority of them within the reach of 100 milliseconds from 99% of the developed countries' traffic. We do have a POP also in Lithuania. It's in Vilnius. So the Lithuanian traffic will be served and processed in our Vilnius point of presence. The capacities keep growing. Right now it's about 67 terabits per second, but maybe tomorrow or another week it will be already big. And this is our help for mitigating different largest attacks. In fact, Cloudflare mitigated within the several years of history one of the largest attacks. Yeah, and they not anymore in megabits or gigabits. They are already going way beyond the terabits. So, and this is where you need the capacity that you're able to hold it. There is no way you're able to get that scale with the hardware. Yeah, that's where the cloud solution, network solution, is able to scale with you as much as you need it. You don't have to worry about it using the hardware equipment and not utilizing it fully. The business grows with you, the service grows with you. So that's the beauty of using cloud solutions. All right, let's move over and look at this slide. So in every single data center that we have in the world, in all of these 200 data centers that you see today, we have the full stack of our features, which means if we're talking about mitigation DDoS, replication firewall, DNS, load balancing, caching capabilities, protecting, for example, on different levels, that's all already come in every single data center in the world. Whenever we release something, it comes in all 200 data centers. Whenever you want to change in the configuration rules, let's say flush the cache, update your replication firewall rule, it all comes within the seconds on all our data centers. So we guarantee that, for example, in Lithuania, users have exactly the same experience with Cloudflare as in San Francisco or in Johannesburg or in Miami, for example. So they all have the same experience everywhere. This is just an idea of how many different verticals we work with. And some of the names probably you already know, like Garmin, L'Oreal, Shopify, yeah, like all of 23andMe, etc. So we have really a very robust database of the customers who are using Cloudflare on different scenarios, not just the public sector, but it's a medical, healthcare, consumer, education, e-commerce, all of them. Because at the end of the day, if you have a digital property and you want to make sure you have to protect it and run it fast, as close as possible to your users, Cloudflare is able to help you with it. Okay, so let's look at the overview of our services. What basically we're talking about, what type of things I can get it. So we're talking about a portfolio of different pillars of the products. And I would say we can combine it into security pillar or security group of products, performance and reliability. We have a zero trust products. It's for those who actually would like to have alternative for the VPN when you're working, for example, from home or some public places. There is also replacement of MPLS and other things that you need to create that zero trust. We're going to talk a little bit about it too. And of course, for custom logic, we have also environment which we call serverless environment, where you can create your custom logic. Today, we're going to focus on replication, protection. So we're going to be looking at DDoS, what specifics of it, what it brings, what challenges it has, how Cloudflare able to fix it, and a replication firewall, what actually new trends and how actually efficient it can be. So, but as you can see, the portfolio is really rather large, and you can certainly start with one piece of it or one feature, and slowly you can upgrade to others and others. So it all works quite nice as a Lego, small pieces that you can always add or remove whenever you need it. So it's really agnostic. This is a way I want to show you that today we focus on application layer, layer 7. But of course, there is much more protection and other features that are available on other services and other layers as well. Right, so security. What other challenges bring us today? Security. With the security today, the biggest issue is how I can get protected within the whole internet when I'm traveling, when I'm working in my office, when I work from home, or for example, when I'm on the move. So that's all is a very important questions, because you can see anyone can get hacked. You can get malicious email with phishing, how you can protect your customers who is buying products from you, protection the data from data loss, and for sure you want to make sure that you are also compliant. So in Cloudflare, we have different features for different parts to be a more efficient. When we're talking about DDoS, DDoS can happen, attack, on different levels. If we're talking about level 3 and level 4 DDoS, just for a second, this is something that quite already matured, and many of these type of attacks, like volumetric, scene flat attacks, they've been mitigated quite efficiently, and it's done automatically, because you can easily, with the right equipment and network, recognize it and get the mitigation within 10 seconds. But when we look at level 7 DDoS, the challenges here, this is where it becoming more sophisticated and complex attacks that's not that easy to recognize as on level 3 or level 4. So, and not just that you cannot just recognize it if it's look like a normal traffic, but it's also CPU heavy. So in order to mitigate them, you need to have quite a large, extensive, scalable network that able to dilute this attack and mitigate it by spreading it out, for example, or like using multiple scrubbing centers with the bigger capacity. So, and in level 7, there is also automated protection that we have it, but at the same time you have to look at other options based on type of attack. You can use either, for example, replication firewall, and this is where it fits perfectly when we're talking about cross-site scripting, SQL injection attacks. You want to make sure you're compliant with the PCI. That's where you want, and you make sure have web application firewall in place, because without it, it's actually not part of the PCI. You have to have it. Rate limiting, it's a great for brute force attacks. So when we're talking about level 7 application layer, so it really depends to understand what type of attack you are facing and what available tools for you are there. So, but we're going to focus on DDoS level 7 and replication firewall, and let's have a look a little bit more into details what the caveats they bring. DDoS. With Cloudflare DDoS, this is something that can happen within a second. We had so many customers that came for us onboarded under attack, and we were able to help them within literally a few hours, because with Cloudflare, all you need is just to change the DNS to Cloudflare and make sure you follow our steps, best practices, how to get protected against it with our network. The rest, we take care of it, because 24/7, Cloudflare solution works non-stop. So basically, our customers who are using Cloudflare, rely on our team to make sure that they can sleep and able to take care of it with Cloudflare. Another thing that is very important, that it's always on, that's the first thing. And the second one is that every single data center that we looked at the map, where you have 200 data centers of Cloudflare, each of them can act like a scrubbing center. So if you use one of the other competitor technologies, you know that when you're under attack, you always have to point the traffic to the scrubbing centers. They might or might not be in the same region with you. And once it's over, you will have to turn it back to the way it was before. With Cloudflare, you don't have to think about it at all because it works automatically, and each of our data centers able to mitigate attack. If for some reason the capacity got overloaded, it's actually automatically able to route the traffic and mitigate it with other nearest devices, servers. And the best thing about it, that we're trying to make sure that we mitigate attack within that region so that it doesn't spread anywhere else. So it's really ease of use. The biggest thing that we have is our network intelligence. Working with so many millions of different cases of our customers, and from Australia, New Zealand, Pakistan, Russia, Ukraine, US, China, we got a really massive database of IP reputation that we use in it. In fact, it's multiple databases that we use today. It's a understanding of the request itself. For example, we have to look at the signature, the headers, for example, the sequence of it to understand the traffic. Is it attack or not? Is it legit traffic? Is it looks like a normal traffic from this IP or from this request is coming from? Yeah, we have to look at the weight, TLS connection. That all takes in advance by our automated DDoS protection system that able to mitigate within 10 seconds. And on top of it, the new trend that we have in Cloudflare, it's a threshold. So you might familiar that some of the companies who offer in DDoS, they have a fixed threshold. They're gonna launch DDoS protection only it will hit some certain limit, let's say 10,000 requests per minute, something, and only after they will start mitigating it. But in reality, not every customer has the same threshold of holding it. Many of them can already start going down, maybe with thousands, 200, 500. You never know. So that's why in Cloudflare, we also use a flexible threshold, which means that we're looking at the origin and we're listening for the origin to see if there is increase in 500 errors status codes that we can receive. So for us, we understand if it's able to capable or not. So we can change that flexible threshold upon this and mitigate it immediately. In fact, it's been very efficient. So this is just an example from the last quarter. That's actually for the Q1 2021. Just the idea of the attacks distribution that we actually had originated in Lithuania. As you can see, 90% of it DDoS. So this is where you need to have really a good provider, scalable enough to be able to protect you against these type of attacks with that massive scale. Right. So where we can use Replication Firewall. This is a protection of level 7 as well, but we're looking at a different application. So with a Replication Firewall in Cloudflare, we offer multiple services. So this is where you can look at the browser integrity check. You can also look at the IP reputation so that we can decide if the traffic is legit, if traffic needs to be blocked, if that IP, for example, been used many times for originating attacks or maybe malicious bots. We also have a set of the rule sets that we look closer on demo, what exactly they look like, how to set them up. And of course, custom workers rules, which allows you to create a custom logic. And I'll give you a great example when we're talking about bot management that actually aligns very carefully and close with firewall rules. So let's have a look at the details of Replication Firewall. So Replication Firewall today, most of you might probably using Avast Mod Security rule sets. That's the one that actually contains the rules, and against them matching will help you to analyze and protect you against some of the most common that type of attacks like SQL injections and cross-site scripting. But in Cloudflare, we offer much more. You can go with a standard advanced mode security rule sets, that's up to you, but you also might look and use Cloudflare managed rule sets. That's a rule set that we come up and we created by ourselves, where we actually more efficient. And I will show you and explain to you why it's actually efficient. So I'll give you an example. You using today, for example, WordPress website. Yeah, you have an e-commerce and WordPress announced vulnerability. Usually what's happened, it takes them days, weeks to implement the patch, to release a new version of it. So it means that period of time, that few days, few weeks, are you vulnerable because the version of the WordPress, for example, you're running is actually able to get you into trouble. So with Cloudflare, because we work very closely with security teams across the world, it's Facebook, it's Mozilla Firefox, it's Google. So we're always aware of the new vulnerability way ahead. So our team of firewall developers, they able to implement that specific rule, a patch, within an hours once it's been announced. So everyone who's using Cloudflare and you have turned on that rules, it will automatically, this patch apply for you. So even though you run in that older version, with Cloudflare, you actually don't have to worry because we already got your back. We have the patch for you ready. And when you're ready, you can always upgrade to a newer version. So that's a huge, big differentiator across other replication firewall providers that have there. So it's really efficient, it's really fast. And actions you can do is not just a block challenge with CAPTCHA or JavaScript or simulate the traffic to understand if there is any false positives or negatives in your traffic, but you can do so much more, and we're going to look at the demo. I'm more into practical things, that's why I don't want to bother you a lot with the slides. So let's dive into interface. So I'm going to start sharing the screen, and if any of you can confirm that you are able to see my screen.
Yes, I can see it.
Great, thank you so much. So this is Cloudflare interface. I am now under an account called Cloudflare Analytics. We're going to be looking at specific settings of Cloudflare for that domain, cf-analytics.com. So I'm clicking on it, and in this UI, quite intuitive, simple, where you can find all the features that you need to use. So as you can see, we have one interface for both security features and also reliability and optimization features. So you don't have to switch between different providers, different consoles. You have it all in one. So, and today we're gonna focus in on our security features. So I'm clicking on firewall. In fact, it's one of the most interesting. I love that section because there's so much more you can do with it and investigate it that you can spend literally hours with it. So just want to show you a couple of hints. So there is in settings security level, and this security level is looking at a pure reputation to make sure that, and sensitivity, so that it knows how to react. Right now, by default, it's set to medium security level, but you can decide if you want to lower it or make it high, or turn it off if you are part of enterprise plan, which means once you set it in higher, for example, sensitivity, most likely requests of different customers, most of them will be challenged with CAPTCHA. Yeah, so it's one of the options when you are being hit with many attacks and lots of malicious traffic. You might maybe use your security level to high level. But what if you're under attack? And we're talking about, let's say, classic attacks that we can recognize or use a standard methods. Yeah, we have I'm under attack mode, which allows us actually to inject a JavaScript, simple JavaScript, into the browser before it actually loads, so that we understand that it's actually a human going through their desktop or mobile browser, so that we can differentiate it. And the rest, who is trying to use it through the code and other features, they're gonna be actually got blocked and recognized. So there are different options that are available for you that you can use. Some of the customers, they're constantly under attack and they don't mind to have I'm under attack mode turned on all the time. Yeah. Okay.
Camilla,
so, yes.
Yeah, we have a question, and really good questions. Thank you, Armas, for your question. So, could you tell us what about the integration Cloudflare to IT security tools? For example, like if a company has CM or log management system, how it can be integrated?
That's a great question. Thanks, Mindaugas, for giving the question from the studio. So certainly, Cloudflare has our interface, and you can see we do have our own analytics where you can go as detailed as you need to. You can play with it, but you won't get to more because you want to combine it with analytics from your server. You want to see the logs, you want to compare it, different providers, tools that you use in it. So Cloudflare today offers for our enterprise customers a log share. And so what does it mean? We are able to push the Cloudflare raw logs, basically whatever we take from all 200 data centers, we will push that raw information in JSON format, usually it's a gzip file, directly to your, for example, one of the SIEM tool provider, or maybe even cloud storage provider. I'll just give you, here is actually, you can decide what type of events you'd like to do. For example, security event, it will be up under Firewall Events logs that you will see. It's like up to 60 different fields that you can export. There is network error logs that you can do. And once you selected the right set of information fields that you'd like to see, you can decide which fields you'd like to have it. As you can see, you have a client request, edge, client IPs, just go into firewall, rate limiting, etc. Once you decide it, you can select. Either you use your medium, let's say, provider like Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage, Microsoft Azure, S3 compatible storages, Ali Cloud, etc. Or today, we offer direct push to Sumo Logic, Datadog, and Splunk. But on top of it, we do have dashboards, Cloudflare, and log push available for Elastic, Graylog, Google Data Studio, and as well Looker. So there is so much more that you can do with it. You can integrate with them and using it directly from Cloudflare, either UI or API, you can set it up. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool answer. But as understood, you still have to have in the middle some storage where you're pushing the logs, and from when this, for example,
no, you can push directly to these three providers. So majority, if it's not on the list, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Correct, yeah. So if the one that listed here, they have direct integration with Cloudflare. So all you need is just to follow the guide and enter for example, the instructions, edit here the endpoint, and we directly push it to that SIEM provider. But because many times our customers, they have, for example, quite lots of logs, and they would like to use longer retention, for example, not longer than 6 months, yeah? They prefer first to do it into the bucket, cold storage, and only after move it to the SIEM tool provider so that they don't need to pay so much for retention. But those who are fine with it, they're happy to push it directly to the SIEM tool provider they use. So it's really up to you guys how you'd like to use it. But we're going to add more and more analytics providers supported. So right now, I know the work being done with Elastic. So stay tuned. We should be able to add it this year, hopefully as well. All right, so that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. So let's get back a little bit into interface just to get your idea. So I want you to look at one of the tools that could be also quite useful. It's called IP access rules. This is where you actually get in your IP firewall rules. You add in your web IP ranges or AS numbers that you'd like to block or allow, maybe whitelisted, or challenge it. But the problem is sometimes the attacks might come in from hundreds or thousands of different IPs. You're not going to put them here and block all of them, yeah? But it might be grouped that it's coming from these specific countries, let's say from Pakistan, from Russia, I don't know, and others where you actually don't have a customers. So what would you do? You can actually easily add the country on the list and make a challenge rule for it, yeah? Or maybe you're not into specific Tor Onion browser traffic and you'd like to challenge it or block it as well, you can do that ads too. So it's one of the options where you can play with it as well. Let's look at web application firewall rules, what we have today. By default, it's switched off. You need to switch it on, yeah? And here you decide which way you'd like to do. As you can see, we have an options for Cloudflare WASP core rule set that you are familiar with it already. So you will see here hundreds of different rules available for you, and you can turn on all of them or apply only those that are relevant for you. You can select sensitivity as well for them. And if you need a paranoia level, yeah, like to see if there is any levels for more aggressive rules or less, you can decide it too. And one action for all of them, you can decide if it's going to be JavaScript challenge, capture, blocking, or just log for false positives, yeah. And you can browse the rules. We help you to understand if you'd like to see something that applied for cross-site scripting. You can actually look at these rules and enable them, and you can see their status. You can create your specific tags that you can work with, maybe WordPress or PHP or anything else that you like to see. You'd like to see if show me only those which enabled or which one is disabled, so you can apply that rules to it. So it's basically how you know it of us mod security rule sets. Yeah, and we always using the latest version that's available on their GitHub so that you guys have it available here. But much more our customers, they prefer to use Cloudflare managed rule sets because they're more flexible. Here, you don't have to go over hundreds and hundreds of different rules. You basically use the one that's relevant for you. For this website, cf-analytics.com, I'm using a WordPress platform. So for me, it's more relevant, instead of turn off all thousands of rules, look at those that apply to WordPress content management system. So that's what I did. I created a tag based on WordPress, and I enabled that specific rules with the action selected challenge capture. Yeah. So, and in case if there is a new vulnerability, the patch will be there. It will appear under this list, and I will use a default action. Either it's a challenge or block or anything disabled. That's the one that will be actually in place. So it's really easy to work with it, to use it, and you can always create a new tag or configuration that's required for you. It's a new interface. You can also configure payload logging, because in interface, we can show you that much basic information about what you need to know, but maybe you need to look at the request itself. You want to make sure that you see not just that headers, but all of the rest information that been taken care of that we won't show you here. You need to actually provide your RSA key that we will encode this data with, so that when you download the file, you will be able to decode them. So Cloudflare never sees the data, because this data will be always encrypted with your key that you will be able after to decrypt it. So that's how it works, the new interface. On top of it, there is, of course, much more. There is a custom rules, and this is very important, because managed rules like OWASP Mod Security or Cloudflare rule set, they're pretty standard. They can cover maybe 80% for majority of that small e-commerce businesses, but we've been talking about big enterprise brands, those who actually have sophisticated infrastructure, different multiple providers, networks, etc. We need to look at more customized and granular rules. And this is where custom rule builder, I love it. Personally, I love it a lot. That works perfectly. So it's called firewall rules. In these firewall rules, you can create a specific rules and create them as needed as required. So let's have a look at it. So for example, I want to protect my API. So in this case, I can work with the number of fields that are available in that list, but it's just the top of the iceberg. Whatever you see here is the one the most commonly used. And it can be, for example, hey, if the request comes from Lithuania, that's the one I actually want to accept only. And for example, I like to use the specific URI path into it commonplace. I want to protect it that it actually comes only with specific methods, request methods, and for example, adding extra parameters. So you got the idea. Here I can create as granular as possible rule that will not affect a real traffic. On top of it, I can use Cloudflare rules, because that standard one, like client IP, country, URL, request method, they're pretty standard fields. But in Cloudflare, we also have our own fields. And for example, if you're using Cloudflare bot management, it works very closely with Firewall. So you can look at the threat bot score. You can look at if it's a verified bot. Please, for example, exclude them from being blocked. You can look at the bot JavaScript score, if there is anything in it. Yeah, because we look at the score and we can decide the rule if we're going to challenge it or we're going to let it go. So there is lots of fields that I can use, but not to make it over into list of the drop-down menus. Usually what's happening, our customers who require, for example, response specific headers, fields, they need any extra parameters that not listed here. For example, they want to block all the traffic that comes from all the ports except port 80 and 443. So in this case, all they need is just to work with the syntaxes of this expression that they will use and add that extra parameter, like for example, and port dot, and you can exclude or do the 80 or whatever you needed there to make sure that it's all reflected here. And after that, you can decide what would you like to do. Do you want to block that rule? You want to the traffic JavaScript challenge capture, maybe allow it to pass. Maybe it's all my API requests coming from that specific client IP. I can do so, bypass it, or even log it. And bypass, I just want to show you, because sometimes maybe my API doesn't need that high security level as the rest of the website. So what I can do security level, bypass it. Or I can, for example, switch off the WAF manager rules, Or maybe I'll just do a zone lockdown, and zone lockdown, it means that only from specific IPs addresses I will able to reach it. So there is a different things that you can do with it and play with it to make sure that it doesn't affect your real traffic. So now let's have a look at the real rules that actually I'm using it every day on this website.
Camilla, talking about Cloudflare itself as a platform, we still have one more question as well. It is possible to authenticate to the management console with LDAP, and as well does Cloudflare support role-based access control?
Yes, we do. We're talking about different things. So one thing, if we're talking about user-based roles, yes, we do have it in interface and also on API. Let me very quickly show it to you. So we do have members here where you can give them different user-based access, and you can also create API tokens or access, or it can be that also available only for specific features of Cloudflare. For example, you will create super administrator or maybe administrator, and at the same time you can create an API token that will have access only to change DNS or maybe flush the cache or update firewall rules. Yes, you can do that here. So that's one of the granularity that you can go and give your team or customer different access to Cloudflare. Some of them will have only, for example, read-only rights, and they can't harm you. They won't able to change anything through API or through interface because they have only read-only. Others will have super administrator access. They will have access to everything, including adding members and billing. And others only maybe managing firewall rules. Yes, you can combine it, some of them, but that's the idea when we're talking about user-based role memberships. When I'm talking about other options that are available for increasing your firewall protection, we do have options, for example, to protect API shield, but also we have an API schema that you can upload and decide the rule on which one it should act. So that's another thing that we also provide you with. And we're working on the roadmap to add other rules that are available for you. For example, we now been done a very new recent job on increasing rate limiting rule granularity, where you're looking not just an IP address limits, how many numbers of hits happen from this IP address, but also from which country it's coming from, what AS number of hits coming from. So it really can get as granular as possible. So let me know if I've answered your question, if you have anything more in details to go to.
Yeah, a little bit additional information. Would it possible to log in with the same Active Directory account which I have, like logging to my computer? Can I log to the portal?
Yes, actually, I believe you were talking about probably also single sign-on
Yeah.
option where you can use your own service provider, identity provider to log with Cloudflare. Yes, we do support it. In fact, I can even show you my account with Cloudflare, Camila, cloudflare.com, using that option. It's based on our Okta. So basically here, as soon as I put my mail address, it got recognized that I'm using my identity provider, and you can see it's changed button to log in with single sign-on, and password is no longer required because I've been added to Cloudflare interface, but it will check against my identity provider if that user exists and if that user has access to Cloudflare. So basically with this, yes, you can do that too.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm using Google Cloud G Suite, so it's basically taking me now to interface. It's checked against my Google G Suite account, and yes, it's all good, so I can proceed with the access to interface. Okay, so let's move a little bit forward just to get your idea that it's, as you can see, it's so much more in it. And it's really about to get the right configuration, the right approach, and having a clear plan what exactly needs to be done on terms of security always help you to set up Cloudflare a right way. So the more details you have, the more access you have to logs, the better you can configure it for yourself. I'll do a couple of more things here, but we wrap up to have more proper question and answer session, okay? So here is just an example of different traffic that you can filter it and you can work on it. Yeah, so the information provided here will allow you to understand what actually fall under it and what challenge rule, bot management generic rule that actually been accessed here. And I even can look at the activity log journal where I can see why it got blocked, what the expression been used, what bot score it got used, and what bot source was used for it for that bot management thing. So it's really, really, really can be as detailed as possible. Just take into consideration the time. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can move back to the other slides and look at the question and answers and quiz.
Okay, so now we'll start to share your slides, yeah, again?
Yes. Just give me a second. I'll just put it on the slide Q&A.
Okay. I'll speak a little bit in Lithuania. Tai jeigu kas turite klausimų, irgi galite rašyti lietuviškai. Pasistengsiu juos išversti ir Kamila atsakys juos. O pradžiai galiu dar aš keletą. So I will start with a question. I told that we can ask as well in the Lithuania language. I will translate it to you.
Sure.
I have a few questions from my side. When we're talking about the web application as like in general, how do you think what is the biggest threat today is for the web application and how Cloudflare can help to solve it?
That's a very good question, Daugas. So the biggest threats today is what I could identify it, is really what I could say is what we've seen that we're not able, for example, to trigger it that or recognize it that it's an attack. So there always going to be the 0-day attacks or something that moment where we're not able to yet get the mitigation for it just because it's maybe haven't been yet used before to mitigate it. In this case, I'll just give you an example. We do have one of the technologies, it's called browser isolation tool. I don't know if you heard about or not, but basically it allows you to run the browser somewhere on the edge, like Cloudflare, in a protected private container where whatever you see in your browser is actually being sent and opened in a safe, protective environment, but all you see is actually just a vector, images, and text blocks that look exactly like your website. So this is one of the technologies that we've been using in Cloudflare. It's called Cloudflare Isolated Browser, where some of these attacks like phishing and malicious and others that could be actually protect you because it's no longer executed on your own laptop. So I would say that's the biggest challenge when we are all working remote. We're no longer sitting in the office where we have a protected Wi-Fi network. We are using the laptop that sometimes maybe not from work, or we are on the roads. And how can we make ourselves work in protective environment? That's why using the set of features on top of Replication Firewall, DDoS protection, browser isolation tools, gateway where it's constantly check the traffic and compared if it's actually malicious or not, will help you to actually mitigate it. It's always a set of different features that work very seamlessly that you even not noticing it.
Okay, thank you. And talking about the Cloudflare and talking about the companies, what kind of companies should think about this, like a Cloudflare as a product? So, for example, the companies who has e-commerce shops, or who has just a brand web application and that's it, for a brand like or similar blog. So, how do you think which one of the companies should start to think about this?
That's certainly a great question. I'll just give you an example. Even me, like setting up some simple blog for some cooking for my mom, I think about Cloudflare right away, because I'm like thinking, oh, we have relatives live there and there, they all would like to see it, and latency is the problem. But with Cloudflare, you can sort it right away. And on top of it, you're getting the security. So when I'm looking at it, it's just a probably question, not if you need to use it, but the question of when you're ready to use it and mature enough to use it. So it doesn't matter what type of vertical you're working with. You are in the internet, and today we have so many tools that can rob you of the information from your website, scrub the pricing, buy the product by bots just to by competitors maybe, so that you're no longer able to sell it to your customers because it's been bought by bots. So any of you who are has any digital presence, you need to think about security and of course be as close as possible to the users, because these two things come in hands. You might use some heavy security solutions, but they will be extremely slow and affecting your website performance. And it's also a problem because within 2-3 seconds, it's not loading. I'm leaving your website. I'm not interested to stay in that long line. So for me, truly, anyone who has digital presence should think about security and performance and as a one package together. So, but give you an example, in Cloudflare, we have so many different verticals, starting from really, really small customers who on free site using their blog, all the way to huge enterprise companies who are protecting full infrastructure with Cloudflare. So in reality, I would recommend it to anyone who really wants to make sure that they protect their customers, protect their environment, and speed up the services.
Okay. And Audimas has one more question. So can we talk a little bit more about browser isolation? It seems that it's really good product. So when user enters some website in your sandbox application, and if they enter some website, and if they enter username and password, that information goes. Does Cloudflare Browse protection helps from putting passwords and other personal information?
So yes, there are of course some of the limitations that happen with it because it's still work in the progress. So certainly with the mail, we're happy to send you some information, but you can actually Google it and put Cloudflare browser isolation, where basically the technology it used is based on a special technology that the company we acquired based in Seattle, where they use basically a vector graphics that look at the content, all the JavaScript still executed. So you're still able to log into your, for example, email address that you're using in the browser, but it's all happening on the remote machine in that private container. So you still get the image and everything. Yes, you're logged in and everything. It's all protected. And you're able actually to work with your, for example, email as it is. The limitations today that are happening, it's working, of course, with video conferences, online conferences. That's the thing that actually right now is challenging to support yet. Yeah, but talking about working with the websites, login, registration, browsing, probably playing YouTube videos, that's all actually works through the browser isolation quite well. But talking about more like online meetings like we're doing it right now, that still needs to be work done on it.
Okay, so thank you for your presentation. I think we can move on to the last part, the quiz part. Yeah, I don't know, I'll speak between Lithuanian and between the English one. The winner is Andres.
Andres, congratulations!
Yeah. So congrats, Andres. And I think we'll have your contacts. So we'll send you an email or Alana will contact you with all the information how you can get your prize. Yeah, so thank you, Camilla, for your presentation. And the last part will be again in Lithuania. I will switch. Tai ačiū visiems už dalyvavimą. Dar paskutinė trumpa apklausa, kaip vertinate seminarą, kas patiko, ko trūko. Ir kaip minėjau, šiandien tai tik tai buvo intro į Cloudflare, kas jis yra, kaip jis iš viso, kokias paslaugas teikia. Ir tikėkime ateityje galėsime giliau pasikalbėti apie šią įmonę ir šios įmonės teikiamas produktus ir paslaugas. Taip pat, jeigu turite kokių klausimų dėl Cloudflare paslaugų, galite rašyti Bluebridge ir mes kartu su Cloudflare jums tikrai atsakysime į visus klausimus detaliau. O daugiau ką, galėsiu palinkėti visiems tik tai gražios dienos ir gero likusio darbingos dienos ir gero vakaro laukiančio. Ir nepamirškit sudalyvauti kitose mūsų saugumo seminaruose aktualiam temam. So yeah, thank you, Camilla, one more time for your presentation, and see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Ačiū, and it was a pleasure to meet you all. And yes, if you have any questions, Indaga was here and help, and me too. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.